the mafia of Roma non-profits and the hydra of racist political parties. Marco Cavali talks hard about the reality of the Roma in the Czech Republic. 0922202217, 24 photo. Jakub Mrakno, Praha in CZ. The head of the Roma political party Roma Luma during an interview in front of the Prague Council, in February, together with the legend of the Chosen, Emil Zajek, he founded the Roma Luma political party, the first since the dissolution of the Roma Citizens Initiative in 2009. Today, Marco Cavali is the chairman of the party and the third candidate on the candidate list of Robert Vasicek in Prague 11, and especially a harsh critic of the current political conditions. We talked about the behind the scenes of Roma non-profits, the betrayal of the pirates and the real needs of the Czech Roma in the Umatij restaurant in Hlub 18, where today the only Roma party was de facto founded. At the last meeting of the Prague Council before the end of the election period, you spoke with a rather sharp interpellation. What made you do it? The reason for our performance was opposition to the concept of Roma integration by 2030, which the municipality came up with based on the work of 30 alleged experts. I am directly offended by statements from the concept, for example, that Roma people slap their daughters when they are menstruating. The whole thing is pointless and most importantly, as always in the last 20 or 30 years, it's about us without us. They just messed something up, and together with the pirates, they think that if the integration didn't work out in 20 years, it will work out now in the next 8 years. What do you think is the main problem? What was the crux of the criticism? Furthermore, they label us, the Roma, as non-adaptable, and moreover only so that non-profit organizations, to which politicians keep referring us, can continue to function. We do not need Roma organizations as intermediaries to advise us that we should work and our children should go to school. We don't need advice on how to take care of families. For me, as a Roma, whose family has lived here for many generations, we never needed this. I have high school, I work, I take care of my family. Even if some Roma in the Czech Republic have problems, when they turn to non-profit organizations, as a result, they just listen to them, and that's all. At the same time, they have considerable budgets. Considerable funds go into Roma integration, either at the national or European level. Where do you think the buried dog is? If you look at the annual reports of some large Roma non-profits and if you understand accounting a little, you will at least stop at items such as transport for 2.5 million or the same amount in the other item. That seems bizarre to me. All the money simply ends up in those organizations and never reaches the people. We try to explain to politicians at various levels that money intended for national minorities should end up with those minorities, and not with non-profit organizations that deal with them. Legally it might be fine, but morally it's definitely wrong and economically it's totally fucked up. Fortunately, there are a few politicians who want to deal with this after the election. Which organizations do you think this applies to? Romadrum, Camorro 21, Slavo 21 and Romeo, which is associated with them by supporting them in the media. It is often the case that the majority organizes a festival through non-profits, and the non-profits then turn it into support for the Roma. That's bad for me. I can give an example from Chernovo, where it doesn't look like it used to for a long time. It's already a normal housing estate where people live comfortably. All this is the fault of the local non-profit organization AZ Chanov, which did not receive any subsidy, despite the fact that they applied for it at various levels. It is because they do not belong to the mafia circle of several mammoth Roma non-profits, which have a monopoly on subsidies and European money for Roma issues. It is an organized group that has been operating here for 2 decades and actually artificially feeds xenophobia and racism itself to keep the money flowing. It is the same as in the case of the Government Council for National Minorities, where again the same people who act arbitrarily and in their own interest on behalf of the Roma are involved. The easiest thing for the government is to ask how much they want and release the money. Roma Luma says that we don't want money from the government, which, of course, will remain somewhere in an irreversible state. We don't want anything for free. We want to build it ourselves. So the problem with non-profits was the reason why you entered the political arena? It was one of the reasons, but we are definitely not a party that aims to liquidate non-profit organizations. Many of them are doing good work for the Roma community and are really trying to help people, but the few gigantic non-profits that we are criticizing should look into their conscience. Roma Luma was created mainly because in the Czech Republic Roma are still automatically perceived as a problem. There is still racism and xenophobia, and it is 30 years since the fall of communism, and integration is still being talked about here. but it is still being done the same way. It is still being done by the same people. At the same time, none of these people bears any responsibility for the eventual failure of that integration. Moreover, racism and xenophobia are also rooted in politics. Where do you see the threat in this regard? We call it the hydra, which consists of the SPD, the pledge and other political parties or groups, which constantly feed the issue of the maladaptive or socially weak, as they say, behind which the majority society automatically imagines the Roma. Tomio Okamura's politics are racist, but generally tolerated. I don't know if this is healthy for the Czech Republic. In the West, skin color is not a problem. Here, thanks to the SPD and the like, the Roma are still persecuted here. How would you like to proceed as a Roma political party? If we have the opportunity, we are ready to propose a real concept of helping the Roma, which is primarily based on our people having the right to work on sub-limit state contracts. The Roma are already doing it anyway, but it's through the fifth or sixth hand, and it often happens that those people don't get paid. Then they get into debt traps, foreclosures and find themselves in a situation where they can't get a normal job. When this is established and the myth of unemployed Roma is dispelled, there is a chance that even the majority society will gradually retreat from xenophobic attitudes towards our community. But for that, it is necessary for the Roma to be in the councils, so that decisions are not made about us without us. Roma Luma wants to be the imaginary bridge between the majority and the minority. How did Roma Luma come about? I came up with the idea of founding a Roma political party as part of the party that meets right here in the Umatage restaurant. Under the name Roma Luma, we have already filmed various series, pranks, but mainly we have already helped our people ourselves, with food, with existential problems, with meetings at the authorities. So together with Emil Zayek, we came to the conclusion that we would not help ourselves by founding a non-profit organization, so we would found a political party and go at it hard. This happened in February 2022. We want to change the approach. We want to show people that we can do it. The interview for Praha in CZ took place in a pleasant atmosphere in the Umatage restaurant in Hlubotín. Can you explain your party's priorities to readers or potential voters? Our priority is the real connection of the majority and the Roma minority, so that people get to know us and stop taking our culture from us as part of deliberate integration. Hitler failed to break us, the communists failed, and the current government will not succeed either. No one will succeed. We want to go the way of mutual respect without racist attacks from both sides, not to divide society, as is common in politics today. In the interpellation at the municipality, you defined yourself quite sharply against the Pirate Party. How do you personally perceive the Pirates and their influence in politics? The Pirates take us as a guarantee of electoral votes, because they claim that we are also citizens of the Czech Republic, but on the other hand, they have never supported Roma candidates for elective positions. They are always somewhere at the end of the list of candidates. In addition, they actually turned their backs on the Roma community every time we asked them for something. Then Ivan Bartas comments on the fact that the Roma are used to living outside by the fire and by the tent. This offends me personally. I have never lived in a tent, and the same applies to my parents, grandparents. The Roma definitely do not need pirates. We need our own political party that can guarantee the community that it will not betray it. Many of us today see the pirates as traitors. I can also mention the activist from the north, Joska Mika, who is undoubtedly a Roma icon. In the case of his collaboration with the pirates, I feel like they sucked him out and ultimately never allowed him to become the true icon he was. How does Roma Luma resonate within the Roma community? We have great feedback from the Roma community abroad. The voices of immigrants are also heard that if we managed to start a change in society's attitude towards the Roma here, they would return home. Within the country, it's about 50-50. Some people don't trust it completely, but the other half of the Roma community supports us a lot. It is important to say, however, that we are not a racist party. There are gadgets in our membership. Although our program mainly deals with Roma issues, what would be the first step you would take if elected to the council? First of all, we would like to initiate the creation of some official body that would communicate the problems of national minorities, including the Roma one. Then we would promote the use of so-called fast rotas in the construction and repair of the city's infrastructure, which is precisely related to the employment of Roma within municipal, city or state sub-limit contracts. Of course, it could save money on jobs that are normally tendered to expensive firms. In turn, this would give Roma people the opportunity to work normally and gradually become full-fledged. non-excluded members of society. It is not about social entrepreneurship, when the majority tries to teach Roma to work as an alibi, but actually keeps them somewhere on the fringes of society. Roma people know how to work. They are also quite adaptable. All they have to do is get a job. Of course, work valued to support families. And what are you planning after the elections? After the elections, we want to organize Roma elections, through which we want to show the politicians and the Ministry of the Interior how we would imagine the democratic and transparent election of Roma representatives to local governments. We are launching in 14 regions through our website romaluma.com, where our candidates will have 1 month to nominate and another month after that to vote electronically. We will then confront the Ministry of the Interior with the finished data. They can't imagine how they should do it, so we decided to show them. We don't want to be constantly represented by people we don't even know, who are not part of our community and are actually ashamed of us. There are still many people in the Roma community who have a natural respect and authority based on the Vajda principle. They used to lead Roma communities, areas of the city or specific streets. But thanks to non-profits, they have been losing their authority for years. As Roma Luma, we want above all to be a guarantee that everything happens transparently.